Dr. Jake Morrison walked through the gleaming corridors of Kepler Research Station, his coffee mug steaming in the recycled air. Outside the massive windows, Earth hung like a blue marble against the darkness of space. The station orbited quietly, home to some of the galaxy's brightest minds and strangest creatures. Today was different. Today, Jake would meet his new students from across the stars. The biology lab doors slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, 3 alien beings waited at the curved desks, their forms so different from humans that Jake still felt amazed after all these years in space. The Galactic Exchange Program brought together species from dozens of worlds, but these 3 represented some of the most advanced civilizations known. Zixtal sat perfectly still, his body made of living crystal that caught and split the lab's light into rainbow patterns. The Zephyrian's face had no mouth, only 2 bright blue points that served as eyes. When he spoke, his voice came from vibrations in his crystal structure, creating a musical tone that filled the room. Next to him, Krivak shifted constantly on his 6 legs. The Vertakian looked like a cross between a spider and an octopus, with multiple arms that moved independently. His skin changed colors as he thought, currently showing patterns of purple and gold that meant he was curious but cautious. The 3rd student was the most unusual. Bright essence appeared as a roughly human-shaped glow of white and yellow light. The luminal could become solid when needed, but preferred to exist as pure energy. Small sparks danced around the edges of where a normal person would have hands. "Good morning, everyone," Jake said, setting his coffee on the lab bench. "Welcome to Earth Biology 101. I'm Dr. Morrison, but you can call me Jake." Zixtal's crystal body chimed softly. "We are honored to study with you, Dr. Morrison, though we wonder what Earth's simple life forms could teach beings from our advanced worlds." Jake smiled. He'd heard this attitude before from other alien students. Every world has something unique to offer. Earth's biodiversity is quite remarkable, actually. Krivak's arms waved dismissively, his skin flashing orange and red. "Our homeworld Vortaka Prime eliminated all inefficient biological forms thousands of years ago. We replaced them with superior mechanical versions, much more logical." "Interesting approach," Jake said diplomatically. He activated the holographic display system, and images of Earth's creatures began floating in the air above their desks. "Let's start with some basic categories of Earth life." The presentation began with large mammals. The aliens showed polite interest in elephants and whales, though Bright Essence commented that luminal energy constructs could grow much larger without the limitations of physical matter. Birds came next. The students watched footage of eagles soaring and hummingbirds hovering. But Zixtal noted that Zephyrian crystal ships could fly faster and more efficiently than any biological creature. Jake moved through fish, reptiles, and amphibians, each met with similar reactions. The aliens acknowledged Earth's creatures, but clearly saw them as primitive compared to their own worlds. Achievements. Then came the insects. The moment Jake displayed the first image of a common housefly, all 3 aliens began making sounds that could only be described as laughter. Zixtal's crystals rang like wind chimes, Krivak's skin flashed bright yellow, and Bright Essence's light form flickered rapidly. "These tiny creatures," Zixtal chimed. "Surely you jest. How could such microscopic beings be worthy of study?" Jake paused the presentation. "Actually, insects are incredibly successful. They make up about 80% of all animal species on Earth." "Numbers mean nothing," Krivak said, his multiple arms gesturing wildly. "These micro-vermin could never survive on a properly developed world. We eliminated such inefficient pests long ago." Bright Essence pulsed brighter. "My people exist as pure energy. These crude biological forms, with their chemical processes and physical limitations, are evolutionary dead ends. How do humans tolerate sharing a planet with such inferior creatures?" Jake felt his jaw tighten, but kept his voice level. In the corner of the lab, Lisa Parker looked up from her research notes. The graduate student had been quietly working on her own projects, but Jake could see the irritation growing on her face. Insects have survived on Earth for over 400 million years, Jake continued. They've adapted to every environment imaginable. Desert heat, Arctic cold, deep ocean, high mountains. Zixtel's crystals chimed dismissively. Adaptation is merely a sign of imperfection. Truly advanced beings transcend environmental limitations. Indeed, Krivak agreed. My people conquered our world's environment rather than adapting to it. We reshaped our planet to suit our needs, eliminating inefficient biological competition. Lisa stood up from her desk, her chair scraping against the floor. Eliminated. Competition? That sounds more like fear than superiority. The three aliens turned to look at her. Zixtel's blue lights focused on the young human woman. Fear of these tiny creatures? Impossible. Then why eliminate them? Lisa asked, walking closer to the group. If they're so inferior, why not coexist? Bright Essence S-form grew brighter. Because efficiency demands removing unnecessary elements. These insects serve no purpose in an advanced civilization. Jake watched the exchange with growing interest. Lisa had always been passionate about her research, but he'd never seen her this fired up before. No purpose? Lisa said. Do you know how many ecosystems depend on insect pollination? How many food chains rely on insects as a foundation? They're not just surviving, they're essential. Krivak's skin flashed red. Essential to primitive systems, perhaps. Advanced civilizations create their own systems. What about pest control? Lisa continued. Disease prevention? Waste recycling? Insects handle jobs that would cost your advanced civilizations enormous resources. The aliens exchanged glances, their equivalent of eye-rolling. Zixtel spoke for the group. Young human, your attachment to these creatures is touching, but misguided. No being from our worlds could ever be threatened by such tiny, simple life forms. Is that a fact? Lisa asked, her eyes narrowing. Jake sensed where this was heading. Lisa, maybe we should continue with the lesson. But Lisa was already moving toward the lab's specimen storage. Actually, Dr. Morrison, I think our guests would benefit from a more hands-on demonstration. Bright Essence pulsed with what might have been amusement. By all means, show us these mighty Earth insects. We are curious to see what you consider impressive. Lisa paused at the storage unit, her hand on the access panel. She looked back at the three aliens who were clearly expecting to be entertained by humanity's quaint attachment to inferior creatures. Careful what you wish for, she said quietly, opening the storage unit. Earth's insects might be smaller than you, but they've had millions of years to perfect the art of survival. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He knew Lisa well enough to recognize that look in her eyes. She was about to teach these arrogant aliens a lesson they'd never forget. The question was whether the lesson would humble them or send them straight to the medical bay. News of the aliens' behavior spread through Kepler Station like wildfire. In the officers' mess hall, Captain Ryan Burke stirred his coffee and shook his head as he listened to the reports. They actually laughed at our insects? He asked Dr. Amy Chun, who sat across from him picking at her breakfast. Amy nodded, her expression tired. Jake told me the whole story. These students think everything on Earth is primitive. They've been treating the human staff like we're barely evolved cavemen. Ryan had been station commander for 5 years. He'd seen plenty of alien attitudes during that time, but this was different. Usually, species that joined the Galactic Exchange program came with some respect for other worlds. These three seemed to think they were doing humanity a favor by being here. It's not just the insects. Amy continued. Yesterday, Zixtel told one of my nurses that crystal healing was obviously superior to human medicine. Krivak keeps asking why we haven't replaced our inefficient human workers with robots. And the energy being? Bright Essence keeps phasing through walls instead of using doors. Says it's more advanced than walking. The maintenance crew is getting tired of recalibrating sensors every time it happens. Ryan sipped his coffee and watched Earth turn slowly outside the mess hall windows. The planet looked peaceful from up here, but he knew better. Earth was a world of constant change, constant challenge, constant adaptation. Maybe that was what these aliens didn't understand. "Have you talked to Jake about it?" he asked. "He's trying to stay professional, but I can see it's bothering him. Lisa Parker is ready to throw them out an airlock." Ryan almost smiled at that. Lisa was small but fierce, and she didn't suffer fools gladly. If anyone could put these arrogant aliens in their place, it would be her. The next day, the situation got worse. During the morning shift change, Zixtel approached Chief Engineer Danny Walsh in the corridor. "Human Danny," the crystal being chimed, "I have been observing your primitive repair techniques. My people perfected self-healing crystal technology millennia ago. Perhaps you could learn from our superior methods." Danny, who had been fixing space stations since before Zixtel was grown in whatever crystal garden he came from, just stared at the alien. "Thanks for the advice," he said finally. "I'll keep it in mind." But Zixtel wasn't finished. "Your tools are crude, your methods inefficient. How does your species accomplish anything with such limited technology?" Danny's wrench tightened in. His grip, "We get by. Barely, I would imagine. No wonder Earth remains a single-world civilization." That evening, the complaints reached Ryan's desk. 3 separate incident reports about alien students insulting human crew members. The Vertakian had told Dr. Chen that multi-limbed beings were naturally superior at medical procedures. The Luminal had suggested that energy-based life was the next step in evolution, and humans were stuck in an earlier stage. Ryan called Jake to his office. The biologist looked exhausted when he arrived. "This can't continue," Ryan said without preamble. "My crew's getting fed up with these students. They're treating us like we're some kind of zoo exhibit." Jake slumped into a chair. "I know. I've been trying to find a way to get through to them, but they're convinced they're better than us in every way. What about Lisa's idea for a demonstration? I'm not sure that's wise. She's talking about showing them some of our more dangerous specimens. If something goes wrong... Ryan leaned forward. "Jake, these aliens signed up for an exchange program. They're supposed to be here to learn. If they're not willing to respect what we have to teach them, maybe they need a reality check." The next morning, Jake returned to the biology lab with a heavy heart. The 3 alien students were already there, talking among themselves in their various languages. They stopped when he entered. "Dr. Morrison," Zixtel chimed, "we have been discussing your planet's biological limitations. We believe we understand why Earth life remains so primitive." "Oh?" Jake said, setting down his coffee harder than necessary. Krivak's skin flashed confident blue and green. "Your species lacks the vision to improve upon nature. You accept these crude biological forms instead of transcending them. We have decided," Bright Essence added, its light pulsing steadily, "that we could help your species evolve beyond these limitations. We could show you how to eliminate the inefficient creatures that hold you back." Jake felt something cold settle in his stomach. "Eliminate them? Of course," Zixtel said. "These insects, these primitive animals, they consume resources that could be used more efficiently. Your attachment to them is sentimental." Lisa entered the lab at that moment, carrying a sealed container. She stopped when she heard the conversation. "Sentimental?" she repeated. "Yes," Krivak said, turning to face her. "Humans seem to have emotional attachments to inferior life forms. It prevents rational decision-making." Lisa set down her container very carefully. You think we keep insects around because we like them? What other reason could there be? Bright Essence asked. They serve no useful purpose to an advanced species. No useful purpose, Lisa said slowly. Jake recognized the dangerous quiet in her voice. So if I brought an earth insect here, right? Now it couldn't possibly affect any of you. The three aliens exchanged glances. Zixtal's crystals chimed with what sounded like amusement. Affect us? These microscopic creatures? Impossible, Krivak agreed. Our physiologies are far too advanced to be influenced by primitive Earth biology. Indeed, Bright Essence said, growing brighter. I exist partially as pure energy. No biological agent could possibly harm me. Lisa looked at Jake, who nodded slightly. He was tired of their arrogance too. So you wouldn't mind a small demonstration? Lisa asked sweetly. By all means, Zixtal chimed. Show us these mighty earth insects. We are curious to see what you consider dangerous. Krivak's skin flashed amused yellow. Perhaps this will help you understand why your species needs to evolve beyond such attachments. Oh, I think this will definitely help with understanding, Lisa said, moving toward the containment units. I've prepared something special for today's lesson. Jake watched the three aliens. They sat with the confidence of beings who had never met a challenge they couldn't handle with superior technology or evolved abilities. They had no idea that millions of years of evolution had created weapons they'd never imagined. I should mention, Lisa said casually as she input codes into the containment system, that Earth insects have had a very long time to perfect their survival strategies. They've faced extinction events, climate changes, and countless predators. The ones that survived learned to fight back. Fight back? Bright Essence pulsed with what might have been laughter. These tiny creatures against advanced beings like us? Well, Lisa said, her fingers hovering over the final control. Let's find out. Jake felt the familiar thrill of discovery that had made him become a scientist in the first place. These aliens were about to learn something new about the universe. The question was whether they'd survive the lesson with their pride intact. Outside the lab windows, Earth continued its ancient rotation, home to millions of species that had earned their place through countless battles for survival. Today, one of those species would represent them all. Lisa led the group to the station's advanced biocontainment lab. The room was larger than the regular biology lab, with white walls lined with sealed specimen containers and monitoring equipment. Red warning lights blinked softly near each containment unit, but the aliens paid them no attention. This is where we keep our more interesting specimens, Lisa said, her voice echoing slightly in the sterile room. I thought you might enjoy meeting some of Earth's success stories. Jake followed behind the group, feeling both excited and nervous. He trusted Lisa's expertise, but he also knew she was angry enough to make a point that these aliens would never forget. Success stories. Zixtal chimed, his crystal body reflecting the lab's bright lights. These creatures you call successful have never left their single world. How does that compare to civilizations that span multiple star systems? Lisa smiled, but it wasn't a friendly expression. Success can be measured in different ways. Let's start simple. She activated the first containment unit. Inside the transparent walls, a common housefly buzzed around. The aliens leaned forward slightly, their equivalent of polite interest. This is a housefly, Lisa explained. They've existed for about 65 million years. They can survive in almost any climate, eat almost anything, and reproduce incredibly fast. Krivak's skin flashed dismissive orange. On Vertaka Prime, our cleaning drones would eliminate such pests in microseconds. We see no value in creatures that spread disease and consume resources. Interesting perspective, Lisa said, moving to the next container. This is a butterfly. They start as caterpillars, completely transform their bodies, and emerge as flying creatures. The process is called metamorphosis. Bright essence pulsed faintly. Shape-changing is common among energy beings. We can alter our forms at will, without needing to go through crude biological processes. Of course you can, Lisa said sweetly. She moved to a larger container. Now this is a beetle. They make up about 25% of all known animal species on Earth. Some can lift objects 50 times their own weight. The aliens made their various sounds of polite boredom. Zixtal's crystals hummed softly. Impressive for such primitive creatures, I suppose. Though our construction automatons can lift thousands of times their weight with perfect efficiency. Jake watched Lisa's face carefully. She was building to something, and he had a feeling these aliens weren't going to like what came next. You. No, Lisa said, walking slowly around the room. All of these insects have something in common that your advanced civilizations might find interesting. And what is that? Krivak asked, his multiple arms waving dismissively. They're all warriors. The aliens exchanged glances. Bright essence flickered slightly. Warriors? These tiny creatures? Every single insect species on Earth has been fighting for survival for millions of years, Lisa continued. They've developed weapons, armor, chemical warfare, coordinated attacks, defense strategies. Earth is essentially one giant battlefield. And these primitive creatures are the veterans. She stopped in front of the largest containment unit, her hand resting on the control panel. Which brings us to today's special guest. Inside the container, a large black ant moved slowly across a piece of wood. It was bigger than the other insects they'd seen, about an inch long, with powerful-looking jaws and a thick body. Meet the bullet ant, Lisa said, Paraponera clavata. From the rainforests of Central America. The aliens leaned closer to look at the ant. It didn't seem particularly impressive compared to the others. Another tiny creature, Zixtal observed. What makes this one special? Lisa's smile grew wider. This little ant has the most painful sting in the insect world. On the human pain scale, it rates higher than anything else we've measured. The pain can last for hours. Pain scale? Bright Essence asked. Humans developed a system to measure how much different stings and bites hurt, Jake explained. Most insects rate between 1 and 3. The bullet ant rates a 4+. Krivak's skin flashed amused yellow. You have a scale for pain from tiny creatures? How wonderfully primitive. The sting causes intense pain, temporary paralysis, and systemic effects throughout the body, Lisa continued, ignoring the insult. Some people describe it as feeling like being shot, which is how it got its name. Fascinating, Zixtal chimed, but his tone suggested he found it anything but fascinating. Though I fail to see how this relates to beings of our advanced development. The ant's venom contains a neurotoxic peptide called ponerotoxin, Lisa said, her voice taking on a lecturing tone. It attacks the nervous system in ways that most species never encounter in their evolution. Most species, Bright Essence repeated. Are you suggesting this crude biological weapon could affect us? I'm not suggesting anything, Lisa said innocently. I'm just explaining how it works. The venom is designed to cause maximum pain and disable threats much larger than the ant itself. It's been perfected over millions of years of evolution. The aliens looked at each other, then back at the ant. The small black creature continued moving around its container, completely unaware of the attention it was receiving. You seem to be implying that this creature could somehow harm us, Krivak said, his multiple arms gesturing at the container. That's impossible. Our physiologies are far too advanced to be affected by primitive earth toxins. My people exist partially as pure energy, Bright Essence added, growing brighter. Biological agents cannot touch what is not fully physical. And my crystal structure has no biological components to target, Zixtal chimed confidently. This creature's weapons are useless against truly evolved beings, Lisa nodded thoughtfully. That's exactly what I expected you to say. Your species eliminated all biological threats long ago, so you never developed defenses against them. We didn't need defenses, Krivak protested. We eliminated the threats instead. Right. So you have no immunity, no resistance, no evolutionary experience with biological warfare. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. He was beginning to understand where Lisa was going with this. Are you suggesting some kind of test? Zixtal asked, his blue lights focusing intently on Lisa. Oh no, Lisa said quickly. That would be too dangerous. I'm just explaining why Earth's insects are so successful. They're living weapons systems, perfected by millions of years of combat. Living weapons, Bright Essence repeated mockingly. How dramatic. But harmless to truly advanced beings, Krivak added, his skin showing confident blue patterns. Completely harmless, Zixtal agreed. Lisa looked at each of them in turn, then at Jake, who nodded slightly. They both knew what was coming next. Well, Lisa said casually, if you're so confident that Earth's insects can't affect you, would you be interested in a small demonstration? Just to prove your point, of course. The lab went very quiet. The only sound was the soft humming of the containment systems and the gentle buzz of the house fly in its container. The three aliens looked at the bullet ant, then at each other, then back at Lisa. Their pride was on the line now. They had spent days mocking Earth's creatures and claiming superiority over everything the planet had to offer. A demonstration, Zixtal said slowly. Nothing dangerous, Lisa assured them. Just a chance for you to prove that advanced beings really are immune to primitive Earth biology. The trap was set. The aliens' arrogance had painted them into a corner, and now they had to choose between backing down or putting their confidence to the test. The bullet ant continued its slow patrol of the container, unaware that it was about to become the most important insect in interstellar relations. The silence in the biocontainment lab stretched for several long seconds. The three alien students stared at the bullet ant in its container, then at Lisa, then at each other. Their pride hung in the balance. Zixtal was the first to speak, his crystal body chiming with forced confidence. Very well, we accept your demonstration. It will be educational for you to see how truly advanced beings handle primitive biological agents. Excellent, Krivak added, his skin flashing bold red and gold patterns. This will prove once and for all that Earth's creatures pose no threat to evolved species. Bright Essence pulsed brighter. I volunteer to go first. My energy-based physiology will show the futility of biological weapons against transcended beings. Jake stepped forward, his scientific training overriding his desire to see these arrogant aliens get their comeuppance. Wait, if we're going to do this, we need proper safety protocols. Medical monitoring, emergency procedures. Unnecessary, Zixtal chimed dismissively. But if it makes you feel better about your primitive creature's failure, proceed with your precautions. Lisa moved to the communications panel. Dr. Chun to biocontainment lab, please. We need medical monitoring for a controlled interaction study. Within minutes, Dr. Amy Chun arrived with a portable medical scanner and emergency kit. She looked at the setup with professional concern. What exactly are you planning? She asked Jake quietly. They insist that Earth biology can't affect them. Jake replied, they want to prove it. Amy looked at the bullet ant, then at the three aliens who were practically glowing with confidence. This could go very badly. I know, but they signed research waivers, and their arrogance won't let them back down now. Lisa had prepared a specialized interaction chamber, a smaller containment unit that would allow minimal contact while maintaining safety protocols. The bullet ant was carefully transferred into the new container using robotic arms. The procedure is simple, Lisa explained. The subject places their hand or equivalent appendage into the interaction port. The ant will be allowed brief contact. Medical monitoring will track all biological responses. Bright Essence floated closer to the chamber. This seems overly complicated for something that will have no effect. Safety first, Jake said firmly. Even if you're right about being immune, we follow protocols. Dr. Chun activated her medical scanners, establishing baseline readings for each alien's unique physiology. The luminal registered as patterns of energy fluctuation. The Vertakian showed complex multi-system biological functions. The Zephyrian appeared as crystalline resonance frequencies. Readings established, Amy announced. Though I have to say, I have no idea how any of this will react to Earth-based toxins. It won't react at all, Zixtel said confidently. That's the point. Bright Essence approached the interaction chamber. The energy being formed a semi-solid hand and placed it near the port opening. Let's get this over with. I have more important studies to pursue. Lisa activated the chamber. The bullet ant, now agitated by the transfer and sensing potential threat, moved toward the opening. Its powerful mandibles clicked as it approached the strange glowing appendage. Fascinating, Bright Essence said mockingly. The tiny creature actually thinks it can threaten me. The ant struck. Its stinger penetrated the semi-solid energy field that formed Bright Essence as hand. For a moment, nothing happened. The luminal began to pulse with what looked like laughter. You see? No effect whatsoever. Your primitive creature is completely. Bright Essence's sentence cut off in a blaze of chaotic light. The energy being's carefully controlled form began flickering wildly as the ponerotoxin interfaced with the biological components that maintained physical coherence. What's happening? Amy asked, her scanners going crazy as they tried to track the alien's rapidly changing energy patterns. Bright Essence couldn't answer. The pain sensation, completely unknown to a species that had transcended physical suffering millions of years ago, overwhelmed every circuit in the luminal's consciousness. The energy being began cycling through forms rapidly, unable to maintain stability. Impossible, Zixtel chimed, but his tone had lost its confidence. Bright Essence collapsed into a barely coherent puddle of flickering light on the lab floor. The energy patterns that made up the being's consciousness scattered by pain beyond anything in the luminal evolutionary experience. Medical emergency, Amy called. Though she had no idea how to treat an energy being experiencing biological toxin effects, Krivak stared at his fellow student, his skin cycling through colors of shock and disbelief. But Bright Essence is pure energy. How can biological agents affect pure energy? Not pure, Lisa said grimly, helping Amy try to stabilize the writhing light patterns on the floor. No species is completely non-biological. There are always physical components that maintain consciousness and form. Jake watched Bright Essence's chaotic flickering with growing alarm. Lisa, we need to neutralize the toxin effects. Working on it, she replied, injecting a chemical neutralizing agent into the chamber. But the damage was already done. The bullet ant's venom had found the one weakness in the luminal supposedly perfect evolution. Zixtel moved closer to his fallen classmate, his crystal structure resonating with harmonics of concern. This cannot be happening. We are advanced beings. We transcended these primitive biological limitations. Apparently not, Amy said, her medical scanner finally detecting stable patterns from Bright Essence. The being is unconscious but stable. The pain overload shut down non-essential consciousness functions. Krivaka's multiple arms waved frantically, his skin showing rapid shifts between fear and anger. This proves nothing. Bright Essence was simply unprepared. My distributed nervous system is far more resilient. Jake looked at the Vertakian with amazement. Even with one of their group unconscious on the floor, the alien was still too proud to admit Earth's creatures posed a real threat. You want to continue? Lisa asked. Of course, Krivak said, though his skin patterns betrayed his nervousness. My people conquered biological warfare millennia ago. We developed immunity to all toxins on our world. All toxins on your world. Jake repeated. But this is Earth. Toxins are toxins, Krivak insisted, approaching the interaction chamber. My multi-limbed physiology can handle anything a single tiny creature can produce. Lisa and Amy exchanged glances. The first test had already gone further than anyone expected. But the aliens' pride was pushing them toward even more dangerous territory. Are you sure about this? Amy asked the Vertakian. Your friend is in medical shock from a single ant sting. Bright essence was weak, Krivak said dismissively. Energy beings think they're superior, but they lack the robust biological systems of truly evolved species. The Vertakian placed one of his 6 arms into the interaction chamber. The bullet. Ant, now even more agitated after its first encounter, immediately sensed the new threat. This is foolish, Jake muttered, but he knew it was too late to stop now. The ant struck again. This time, the result was even more dramatic. Krivak's distributed nervous system, designed to handle multiple tasks simultaneously, instead amplified. The pain across all 6 limbs and his central body core. The alien scream came from every part of his being at once as the ponerotoxin spread through neural pathways that had never encountered anything like Earth's evolutionary warfare. Within seconds, all 6 of Krivak's limbs were convulsing uncontrollably. The Vertakian collapsed next to the still flickering bright essence, his skin cycling rapidly through every color in his species' emotional spectrum. 2 down, Lisa said grimly, helping Amy move the second alien to a safe position. Zixtel stood. Alone now, his crystal structure resonating with frequencies of shock and disbelief. Both of his fellow students lay incapacitated by a single Earth insect, their supposed evolutionary superiority shattered by a creature smaller than their smallest finger. The bullet ant continued its patrol of the interaction chamber, completely unaware that it had just rewritten the rules of interstellar diplomacy. The medical bay of Kepler Station had never seen anything like it. Dr. Amy Chun moved between 3 beds, each holding an alien student in various stages of recovery. Her medical team worked around the clock, combining human knowledge with alien biology data to treat conditions they'd never encountered before. Bright Essence lay on the first bed, still flickering weakly, but no longer the chaotic light storm from the lab. The luminal's energy patterns had finally stabilized, though Amy could see the being was still experiencing pain tremors through the monitoring equipment. Krivak occupied the largest bed, his 6 limbs twitching occasionally as the last effects of the bullet ant's venom worked through his distributed nervous system. The Vertakian's skin had settled into a dull gray color that his species used when feeling defeated or ashamed. Zixtel sat upright on the 3rd bed, his crystal structure intact, but his blue lights dimmed with embarrassment. Unlike his classmates, he had refused the interaction test after watching both of them collapse. His pride was wounded, but his body was fine. Captain Ryan Burke stood in the doorway, reading the incident report that would soon be transmitted to the Galactic Exchange Authority. 3 advanced alien students brought down by a single Earth insect. The diplomatic implications were staggering. How are they doing? He asked Amy quietly. Better. Bright Essence should recover full coherence within a few hours. Krivak's nervous system is adapting, though he'll probably feel echoes of the pain for days. Zixtel is physically fine, just dealing with a severely bruised ego. Ryan nodded, approached the beds. Gentlemen. And being, he addressed the 3 aliens. I trust you're all comfortable? Bright Essence managed a weak pulse of acknowledgement. Krivak's skin shifted slightly toward embarrassed purple. Zixtel's crystals chimed softly. Captain Burke, the Zephyrian said, his musical voice much quieter than usual. We owe your species an apology. Multiple apologies, Krivak added, his voice coming from several of his limbs at once. Our behavior was inappropriate. Ryan pulled up a chair and sat down. I'm listening. Over the next hour, the 3 aliens struggled to find words for their experience. Bright Essence spoke of pain beyond anything in luminal understanding, a sensation so alien to energy beings that it had completely overwhelmed every thought process. Krivak described how the toxin had turned his species' greatest advantage, their distributed nervous system, into a network that amplified suffering beyond imagination. Zixtel was perhaps the most affected. Despite never being stung, we thought evolution meant transcending natural limitations, he chimed sadly. We believed advanced meant superior. But your tiny bullet ant showed us that we simply evolved in different directions. Jake arrived during visiting hours, bringing Lisa with him. The graduate student looked somewhat guilty about the results of her demonstration, though she maintained it was necessary. "How are you feeling?" Jake asked the aliens. "Humbled," Bright Essence pulsed weakly. "Your Earth creature taught us something our civilizations forgot long ago. Pain has purpose. Suffering drives adaptation. We eliminated these experiences and thought we'd grown beyond them. But evolution doesn't stop," Krivak said, his skin showing patterns of deep thought. "We just moved in directions that left us vulnerable to things we'd never encountered." Lisa stepped forward hesitantly. "I want to apologize for putting you through that. But you needed to understand that Earth's creatures aren't primitive just because they're different from yours." Zixtel's crystals brightened slightly. "No apology needed, Lisa Parker. You gave us the most valuable lesson of our academic careers. Superiority is an illusion. Every species finds solutions to survival challenges. Ours are no more valid than yours." Over the following days, the atmosphere on Kepler Station changed completely. The three alien students approached their studies with genuine curiosity instead of condescending superiority. They asked questions instead of making pronouncements. They listened instead of lecturing. Zixtel spent hours studying Earth's biodiversity databases, amazed by the incredible variety of survival strategies life had developed. He was particularly fascinated by the way insects had adapted to every environment on the planet. "Your species coexists with millions of other life forms," he told Jake during one session. "On Zephyr Prime, we reshaped everything to suit our needs. But perhaps we lost something important when we eliminated biological diversity." Krivak developed an obsession with chemical warfare in nature. He studied how different insects, plants, and animals had evolved toxins, venoms, and defensive compounds over millions of years. "The complexity is astounding," he told Amy while reviewing medical data. "Your bullet ant's venom contains dozens of compounds that work together. My people created simple, efficient toxins for our weapons. But nature created masterpieces." Bright Essence underwent perhaps the greatest change. The energy being had spent its existence believing that transcending physical form was the ultimate evolutionary achievement. Now it understood that physical existence brought experiences and capabilities that pure energy could never match. "I felt pain for the first time," it told Lisa during a lab session. "It was terrible, but also educational. Physical beings live with the constant possibility of harm, yet you thrive anyway. That requires a kind of courage we energy beings never developed." The aliens' new attitude spread throughout the station. They began working with human crews instead of condescending to them. They shared their technologies freely, while eagerly learning about Earth's biological solutions to common problems. Danny Walsh found himself in long discussions with Zixtel about how crystal technology might work alongside biological systems instead of replacing them. Dr. Chun collaborated with Krivak on medical research that combined multi-system thinking with human healing techniques. Captain Ryan Burke updated his report to the Galactic Exchange Authority, describing the incident as a breakthrough in interspecies understanding rather than a diplomatic disaster. The three students had learned more about true advancement in a few days than in years of formal education. When the time came for the aliens to return to their homeworlds, the farewells were genuine and warm. Each student carried data about Earth's biodiversity, along with plans to share their new understanding with their respective civilizations. We came here believing we would teach primitive humans about advanced life. Zixtel chimed as he prepared to board his transport. Instead, a tiny ant taught us about the real meaning of evolution. Every species is advanced in its own way, Krivak added. Earth's insects have been perfecting their designs for hundreds of millions of years. That's not primitive, that's masterful. Bright essence pulsed brightly, its energy form more stable than ever. I will carry the memory of physical pain forever. It will remind me that transcendence doesn't mean abandoning what came before, but building upon it. Jake and Lisa watched the transports depart, carrying their former students back to distant worlds. The bullet ant had been returned to its containment, unaware of its role in interstellar diplomacy. Think they learned anything? Lisa asked. Jake smiled, watching Earth turn slowly outside the observation windows. I think they learned that there's more than one way to be successful in this universe. And sometimes the smallest teachers deliver the biggest lessons. In the months that followed, reports began arriving from across the galaxy. The three students had become advocates for biological diversity, sharing Earth's example with civilizations that had forgotten the value of natural evolution. Research. Partnerships formed between Earth and dozens of advanced worlds, each species contributing their unique perspectives to collective knowledge. The bullet ant, meanwhile, continued its existence in the biolab, patrolling its territory and defending itself against perceived threats. It had no idea that its simple act of self-defense had helped bridge the gap between worlds, proving that evolution's greatest success stories often come in the smallest packages.